$40 billion vanished into thin air, and nobody went to jail. This is the story of the biggest bailout in IMF history and how it turned into one of the most brazen financial scandals of the 21st century. June 2018. Argentina is burning, literally. Protesters are setting fires in the streets of Buenos Aires. The economy is collapsing, the peso is in freefall, and President Mauricio Macri is desperate. He needs money, and he needs it fast. So he picks up the phone and calls the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the same organization that Argentinians blame for their devastating 2001 economic crisis. But Macri has no choice. Within weeks, the IMF approves something unprecedented, $50 billion, later increased to $57 billion, the largest bailout package in the organization's 75-year history. To put that in perspective, it's 1,227% of Argentina's IMF quota. The rules say loans shouldn't exceed 600%. Something is already wrong here. Here's what they told the public. This money will stabilize the economy, restore confidence in the peso, and help Argentina get back on track. Macri looks the Argentine people in the eye and says, "This loan will protect you. Trust me." Fast forward 18 months. Argentina is in worse shape than before. Poverty has exploded to over 40%, unemployment is skyrocketing. And here's the kicker. $45 billion of that loan money has left the country. It didn't go to schools or hospitals. It went straight into private bank accounts and offshore havens. So what actually happened? Mauricio Macri wins the presidency. He's a businessman who promises to open Argentina to global markets. But by early 2018, his policies aren't working. Inflation is at 25% and rising. The peso is losing value every single day. Investors are pulling money out as fast as they can. Enter Christine Lagarde, managing director of the IMF. In May 2018, Macri calls Lagarde and asks for help. Normally, the IMF takes months to approve loans, but not this time. Within 3 weeks, the IMF approves $50 billion, the fastest approval in IMF history. Red flag number 1. Here's red flag number 2. The IMF has strict rules about who gets loans. You have to prove the country can pay the money back. Argentina didn't have a credible plan. Even the IMF's own staff raised concerns. Internal documents revealed that economists warned this loan was too risky. Argentina had defaulted 8 times in its history, but Lagarde pushed it through anyway. Why? The answer is politics. The United States has enormous influence over the IMF, and in 2018, the Trump administration wanted Macri to succeed. He was pro-business, pro-America. The alternative was the return of the Peronists, the left-wing party that Washington despised. So the U.S. Treasury, led by Steven Mnuchin, pressured the IMF to approve the loan. Documents later confirmed that Lagarde fast-tracked the bailout under direct pressure from Washington. This wasn't economics, it was geopolitics. But it gets worse. According to Argentine law, any loan over a certain amount requires congressional approval. Macri never asked for it. He signed the agreement and started receiving money without telling Parliament. This is illegal. In 2021, an Argentine judge formally charged Macri with criminal misconduct, but by then the damage was done. So where did the money go? The Argentine Central Bank took the IMF money and used it to defend the peso. They sold dollars to try to stop the currency from collapsing. But wealthy Argentinians and foreign investors knew the peso was doomed. So they took their pesos, converted them to dollars using the central bank's reserves, and moved the money out of the country. $45 billion left Argentina in less than 2 years, the largest capital flight in the nation's history. And who benefited? The rich, the connected, the people with access to dollars. One investigation found that a small group of corporations and individuals received preferential access to dollars at subsidized rates. They bought dollars cheap using IMF money, moved those dollars offshore, and waited for the peso to collapse. When it did, they made fortunes. This is what economists call a bailout for the rich. The IMF money didn't save Argentina. It saved the people who were already wealthy enough to escape, and the conditions the IMF imposed made everything worse. Argentina had to agree to brutal austerity, cut the budget deficit to zero immediately, freeze public sector wages even though inflation was running at 60%, cut subsidies for electricity, water, and transportation. The result? Mass protests, strikes, chaos. The economy contracted by 2.5% in 2018 and another 2.1% in 2019. People who had jobs couldn't afford food. Meanwhile, Macri and his inner circle were living large. There are reports of government officials buying luxury properties in Miami and Madrid, right in the middle of the crisis. Economy Minister Nicolás Duhovne resigned and moved to Uruguay. Central Bank President Luis Caputo also resigned and left the country. These are the people who were supposed to be saving Argentina. In October 2019, Argentinians delivered their verdict. Macri lost in a landslide. The Peronists returned to power, led by Alberto Fernandez. One of the first things Fernandez did was launch an investigation. What he found was damning. The investigation revealed that Macri and his team had lied about almost everything. They lied about the purpose of the loan, where the money would go, and even omitted the true cost in budget documents. Prosecutors found evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and criminal mismanagement. Macri's legacy was destroyed. But what about the IMF? What about Christine Lagarde? Did anyone face consequences? Not really. Lagarde left the IMF in 2019 to become president of the European Central Bank, one of the most powerful positions in global finance. She was never held accountable. The IMF issued a bland statement saying they regretted the outcome but stood by their decision. No apologies. And Argentina. The country is still drowning in debt. Today, Argentina owes the IMF over $44 billion. It's the IMF's largest debtor by far. The country is trapped in a cycle of austerity, inflation, and poverty. Every few years, Argentina has to go back to the IMF, begging for more money just to pay back the previous loans. It's a debt trap with no way out. The human cost is staggering. In 2018, Argentina's poverty rate was 32%. By 2020, it had risen to 42%. That's millions of people pushed into poverty, millions of families who can't afford food or medicine. The middle class has been hollowed out. Young people are leaving the country in droves. This is what a financial scandal looks like when you zoom out. It's real people suffering. So, what are the lessons? First, international institutions like the IMF are not neutral. They are deeply political. They serve the interests of powerful countries, especially the United States. When the U.S. wanted to support Macri, the IMF delivered, regardless of the consequences. Second, bailouts almost never work as intended. When you flood a country in crisis with money, it flows to whoever has the power to grab it. In Argentina's case, that meant the wealthy elite who used IMF dollars to protect their fortunes while everyone else paid the price. Third, there is no accountability in global finance. Macri was charged but remains free and wealthy. Lagarde faced no consequences. The IMF faced no consequences. The investors who profited faced no consequences. Meanwhile, ordinary Argentinians are left holding the bag. This is the reality of modern financial scandals. They happen in plain sight. The money disappears, the economy collapses, people suffer, and the people responsible walk away richer than before. Argentina is not unique. This same pattern has played out in Greece, Ireland, Portugal, and dozens of developing countries. The IMF shows up, promises salvation, imposes austerity. The economy gets worse, the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. It's a system working exactly as designed, just not for the people it's supposed to help. As of 2024, Argentina is still negotiating with the IMF. still trapped in the same cycle. The current president, Javier Milei, has promised radical reforms but is also talking about taking on even more IMF loans. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over expecting different results. By that definition, Argentina's relationship with the IMF is completely insane. The $40 billion question is, will anything ever change? Will there ever be real accountability? Will the system that allows these scandals ever be reformed? Or will we just keep watching the same story play out again and again in different countries, with different names, but always the same ending? That's the mystery. And unlike the financial mysteries of the past, this one is still unfolding. The story isn't over, and neither is the suffering.